Hey y'all, hope everybody's doing well. So for this video, we are drawing Kafka from Honkai Star Rail. So she's one of the villain characters, and I'm not 100% for sure on her ability and everything, but I know that she is pretty awesome. She has a very interesting backstory that we're slowly learning more of. They say that I want to keep calling him a traveler because of Genshin, but the trailblazer apparently was pretty close to Kafka in the past, and they say that only one person really traveled with her throughout time and space for the longest time, and it was the Trailblazer. So one can only imagine the story that's going to be there. So right now with the storyline, it's the new banner, and there is Firefly. I did not get Boot Hill, so I'll be working on getting Firefly, which I feel like I'll be a lot more closer to getting that one versus Boot Hill. I think I had like very, very, very low pity on that one. If you are wishing on this banner, who are you wishing for? I'm blanking at the moment who the second person is, so I'm going to pull it up just to make sure. I always do that. I always start something halfway. I'm like, oh lord, I need my references on who I'm supposed to be saying. Preparation is not like my strong suit on a lot of stuff. So I was thinking of doing a sketchbook session, especially for Yoimiya. I know, like from Genshin Impact, I know that her birthday's coming up, and at first I was going to do the whole digital drawing, but I really want to try to get back into the sketchbook phase. So let me know if y'all would like to see video processes on sketching. This first one, I may just record the inking part because I'm not 100% for sure on how well this sketch is going to turn out. Let's see here. Who is on this banner? It is, of course, Fireful. Everybody calls her Firefly. It does say Firefly. It says Fireful Fly Shine is on her character event banner. And then you've got, oh yeah, that's Rune May on there as well. So are y'all pulling for Firefly, or are you pulling for Rune May? Like I said, I'm going to definitely be pulling for Firefly. And actually, I did a couple of single pulls, and I got Misha. So he's absolutely the cutest ever in this one. And I think, too, after I do the sketch of Yoimiya from Genshin in my little sketchbook that I got, I think I really want to do a spread on Misha. So we'll see how this does. I did order some color lead because I've seen a couple artists use the color lead for variations of shadings. And I thought that would be pretty cool. I have never done the, the alcohol-based markers or the watercolor markers. I haven't ever done any of those. So that would probably be something to play with in the future. But for right now, we're going to stick to the pencil and pen method. Good old pencil and pen. So with drawing Kafka, at first I wanted to do her pose where she does her burst. The big burst, where she ends up pulling out her guns and goes blaze of glory on everybody, and then she goes boom, and everything kind of explodes in the background. But then I also there's a scene in the game where she just she doesn't even jump, she gracefully falls off the side of a building, and I'm sure somebody caught her, or maybe she went through a warp tunnel or something. But it was the background from that scene. And then at the end, I do end up putting the laser beams on a black background. Or not all the way black. It's like in the purple range, if I'm not mistaken. And so I did both of those. I was like, I didn't know which one I wanted to post. And so I just posted both of them. So as usual, I did a couple sketches. And I think this is what really takes up my time the most, is I just need to learn to have the confidence in sketching. And to try to just do it the one time, and that's it. So I go back and forth looking at references, and I'm sorry, I thought I cut out a lot of that, but now that I'm going back over with a voiceover, I'm like, some of these parts are not cut out. Let's see. I did sketch some hands today, and the practice, it's getting there. All I can say is much easier on digital. But I am gonna definitely want to practice drawing hands in the sketchbook too. I don't know if I want to have like one specific sketchbook just for like my messy sketches, like have one for drawing the hands, face, and angle and little studies, and do videos on that, or either just have it all in one sketchbook. But I hope everybody is doing well, and that your wishing adventures and your warp adventures are going smoothly, and everybody's getting everybody that they want. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what else to talk about. Really, Kafka's outfit is pretty simple from the front. The more I was looking and researching, it is a lot more detail on the back of her outfit, and you can definitely see the spider effect on the back side. Oh, and I do apologize too. The lighting is not as bright as what it was on the last video, and a lot of that is because of the weather. It's been very finicky weather lately. Either it storms and you're threatening a tornado, or either it's completely sunshiny and you're basically boiling outside. So apologies for the light variations. I do film this on 2 different days. I did the sketch and base color on one day, and then the whole rendering process on another day. I actually ended up going to work on the coloring day, and so that part definitely different lighting. Oh, it's so nice to be able to go back to work, but then I'm like, oh no, all my drawings that I should be doing and could be doing. So I think I would definitely use a lot of time with the sketchbook and practicing and figuring out how best to do stuff. I would love to figure out how to do inking. One thing that I'm not really confident with is cross-hatching, and I feel like a lot of people want to say that's not really a skill, or there's not really a process to it, but actually it is, because some people when they're cross-hatching, it looks just as phenomenal as somebody doing the coloring. And they definitely show confidence in their lines, which especially with cross-hatching, I imagine you do have to have pretty good confidence with it. The part that confused me with her outfit was I don't know, it's like the harness, the chest harness, because the way the angle it is in her jacket, it really emphasizes the top. Oh, the struggle of trying to get that straight line, or at least in the direction that you want it in. I do struggle a bit with it. But I do like the little subtle details that's in her outfit. It's like a simple, yet it does embrace the Kafka. And her eyes are definitely different than the other characters. A lot of the other characters, even Misha actually, his pupil is like a keyhole, but I noticed some people actually do draw Kafka with an actual pupil, but her eyes is like I don't know, like a marshmallow aesthetic. Is like very, very blobby in the middle, and it's all pink, and then the outside is like a purple lavender, dark lavender color. But then of course whenever she does her burst, her eyes are very, very vibrant, like almost red, like that neon that's in her web that she ends up displaying out. It's kind of in her eyes, the color from that. And I will say, so with the ruffles on her right arm, I ended up opting out drawing the spider web that's on there, because I thought me just doing the ruffles in themselves was a challenge, because I couldn't figure out the best angle at which to draw them, because it's not really, I draw them more like I want to call it like a fluffy ruffle, but her ruffles on her sleeves is a little bit sharper, and so I opted for this version instead. Like I mentioned before, it's one wonderful thing about art is that there are so many variations, and everybody's got their own perspective on how best to do things. So once again, I do apologize with how dark it is. I did have like all the lights on in my room and even an overhead light, and it's still, for some odd reason, it was not wanting to pick up right. I ended up messing with some of the light balance, and I think that could have affected it as well. So I need to adjust some of that. as I mentioned before, I just got a new camera, so the details on everything you see is so much more clear. But I do need to play with the coloring and how to best do the saturations. That will be another learning curve. I may try to do a few more editing on the video itself and see if that helps, but if not, I do apologize. I do like that chromatic aberration, that Gaussian blur, so I try to do like a starry night in the background, and I do erase some of it, just because the darker part of it should have the starry side versus the lighter part. And then now we're into the basic coloring phase, so just getting those skin tones in. And at first, whenever I was drawing her, I thought that her right hand was like, it was just her skin, but then I looked more and she actually has a glove, a red glove on that one, and it's on her left hand that she actually has I'm gonna call them rings, but I don't know if they're 100% rings or not. And we're just doing some basic shading and coloring care. I end up making it very much more vibrant and darker later. And once again, I feel like too, since I have been drawing digitally so much, you kind of rely on certain aspects of it. And that's why I wanted to get back into actually drawing on a sketchbook. I got to thinking the last time that I legit drew in a sketchbook was well over 12 years ago. I took a very long hiatus from drawing in general. So actually I just started back drawing about 4 years ago now on my iPad. So I feel like I've come a long way. I kind of do have somewhat of an art background. I've always enjoyed drawing, and at one point in time I thought that's what I wanted to major in, so I was majoring in art, and then that changed, and then I went to English and back to art, and then eventually I was like, oh my word, I can't make a living on this. I mean, some people, they do very well in it, but yes, my curious thing is the future with all this AI going around and is stealing people's artwork and trying to so-called learn from it. Makes me wonder what the future holds for artists. But either way, I'm going to keep pushing forward and persevering and just having fun with it. That's the biggest thing about art, is make sure that you're having fun with it and that you're drawing what you like. I understand people, of course, have it for, like I mentioned before, like a job, and it can put a downer on it, because sometimes once you do something that you really, really like, and then you end up being so-called forced to have to do it, it's not as enjoyable. So at times like those, it's like me going to school, I was doing a bunch of reading and I didn't find it as enjoyable anymore, because it's one of those things that you're kind of forced to have to do. And so it's just important to take a step back from certain things and remember why you're doing what you're doing, and find other creative ways to do your drawing styles or artwork, and just make changes. I'm having issues with my sweater hitting the hitting the iPad screen, and then it would keep moving my canvas. So you'll see me every once in a while end up pulling my sleeve back a lot. You would think I would wear short sleeves during these videos, but I always wear a sweater or either some kind of jacket. I'm chronically cold. Always. But yes. If you draw, what's your medium for drawing? And if you use a tablet or some electronic device, what program do you use for that? I always find it interesting to learn everybody's different perspectives and how they draw and what they do for their art. And I mean, somebody out there in the world, they probably would love to learn how to draw on a canvas, or drawing on, of course, in a sketchbook, or just certain mediums, and with charcoal, with pastels, with graphite, paint. There's so many variations, or even watercolor. That's a challenging one, is watercolor, or at least to me it is. Now you will notice on the glasses, I actually forget to do the bridge nose part for a good bit of it, the drawing, and then I was like, oh, how in the world did I forget that? I was so focused on trying to make sure that the roundness of them was right and the coloring on that was semi-decent. But yeah, throughout a majority of this piece, that part will be missing, but I do add it later. But yes, so what medium do you draw in? Or would you like to draw in? Or do you draw? Or do you do things like graphic design? That was also a potential major choice for me whenever I was younger, was did I want to do graphic designing? Which would have been fun as well, I think. But yes, we shall see what the future holds, and be hoping and wishing for the best for everybody in general. So you will notice I took some blue from the background and I do include it onto the piece because actually I wanted her to be kind of like a halfway in a shadow and halfway in light. I do change the way I have this lighting on her currently, on her face, and then I end up doing it halfway instead of the across the nose bridge, because there was a reference that I found, and as far as like the coloring and everything of her face, I really liked how it was. But then the more that I started to render it and to add colors and to bring in the background colors and putting it into her as well, I started to look at it more and I was like, there needs to be a change here. And so that's whenever, because I wanted it to be a little bit more dramatic, and it does end up being a little bit more dramatic. So I know Kafka's hair is like a, I'm gonna say like a burgundy color, but I end up bringing in a lot of the reds and purples, and then of course blue as well. So I try to do a variation in the coloring aspect. This is another thing that I feel like I need a lot of practice on, is how to render the hair the best, but I think it's coming along better with each piece. As I mentioned before, each drawing you do, each sketch you do, you're continuing to learn with each one. And that's one fun thing, and like I said, it's fun to see everybody else's processes and how they think and what is best for them. Because even though you can try to draw exactly like them or do the same exact steps, your drawing may not turn out like theirs, but you will learn how to best do your process while you're studying it, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So I do end up moving her face down a little bit. I had a couple issues with it. I felt like either the face was up too high and the neck was too long, or either it was tilted too far one way or the other way. I do liquefy a little bit in this as well, and this is where I really got to thinking. At that point in time, I was like, I feel like I've been relying too much on the digital art aspect, and that's where I got to thinking, maybe I should get me a sketchbook. So that's what I did. I went out to the store today and I got me a sketchbook. I got me a bigger mechanical pencil. Let's see, I think it's the, what is this? It's called a Sumo Grip. But I got 0.7 lead on it. And then I got some graphite illustration markers as well. To start out, I'm gonna end up doing more black and white pieces and focusing on sketching and cross-hatching. And then as soon as my colored lead comes in, I'll try to experiment with that a little bit more. And then one day I would love to be able, like I mentioned before, to do the alcohol markers. But back to my reasoning for doing this is because I felt like I was focused too much on what I could do digitally. And then it's like you kind of lose some base ground. Sometimes it's good to go back to the basics, go back to the roots of drawing, get that old pencil and paper out and just get to drawing. I did. It is so true. Whenever you go from digital to traditional art, that whenever you're trying to draw a line and in your mind, you're in the habit of hitting that undo on any program, you end up doing the motion as well. And then you have a moment, you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? This is like paper and pencil. You can't undo paper and pencil. So yes, it will definitely be a big time learning curve, which I think that'll be fun to be able to document the learning curve and to see the progression as well. I always find it amazing to see other artists' progression from where they came from to where they are today, and to be like, wow, many people think that they start out doing like amazing stuff, but then whenever you go back to see some of the older videos, you're like, they have come a long way. It's no more than just looking at your own art in person, or even on, say, on Instagram, whenever you go back to your main artist people that you follow, or whoever you follow, and you go back to like the beginning post, and either they have done completely different mediums or rendered completely differently, and then here they are today, and it's amazing to see the growth. I think that's the most fun part, to be able to see the growth, because sometimes we get so hyper focused on one or two things, and then whenever you're able to go back and look, and you're like, wow, there's been a real change in this, and either a change for the good or a change for the better. You can be like, well, I really liked how I used to do this, and be able to bring it back. Let's see here. So actually, her jacket, I did make it one side more in the red and one side more in the purple. Once again, that's just because I wanted the lighting. I wanted half of her to kind of be in a shade. And then what I ended up doing, I took the color from her shirt, put it over the darker purple. You see what I'm doing there? And then I end up selecting the somewhat darker version of it in order to create this variation, because it's actually a silver piece, but I would imagine in this shade it is a little bit darker, because her bodice does cover it a bit. She is very well endowed on that aspect in the game, and especially from a lot of art that I've seen in her official art as well. Let's see. So here we're going back, we're fine-tuning stuff, trying to figure out how best to render everything. What I should have done that would have been cool would have been to have the background like Pinocchio. Since now we're in the Farewell Pinocchio version, which is going to be so sad. But it's been very, very sad learning about Firefly's backstory, and where all she's come from, and how, and just everything about her. She's an amazing character. Let's see, I really do hope I get her. Like I said, I have a feeling I will. Let's see. There's so many characters to sketch and to draw, and there is not enough hours or time in the day to want to do everything. I think honestly, if I would have done the lighting a little differently, she would have had part of a reflection on the jacket and the top as well, because whenever you hold up your arm and you shine a light, there's probably a little bit of lighting that would have actually hit it. But at that moment I was like, it probably wouldn't. And then I do take a while to render on the glove and then the ruffles. That's another thing I need to really practice on is, of course, hands. Hands is always the number one practice and a need to practice, but also on the ruffles of clothing. I really like doing the metal on drawing. I know there always could be a better way to render something, but with each one I feel like I'm learning and coming into my own, so to speak. So after I got done with a majority of the drawing, I realized that actually the back of that coat part, it needed to be lighter, because of the character itself. Her coat, or it's really a coat, but I don't know, it's made weird. But it was lighter on the back side. I hope these videos are helping everybody that wants to learn or just enjoys the drawing process. I always enjoy watching drawing processes and people's mindsets and going from there. So of course on this layer I have an add layer, and I end up doing a little bit of add on the butterfly. And I will not only show the time lapse whenever I'm finished the drawing, but I've also imported it as well so that the colors can be better seen. Yeah, I could have her face to me personally is still a little bit off, but everything is a learning curve. It's all a learning curve. Honestly, I feel like if I would have turned up the opacity on a couple of these brushes a little bit more, it probably would have helped as well. Trying to think of what else to talk about towards the end of this. So I know we're on the Honkai Star Rail characters right now. As far as Genshin goes, is everybody getting the characters they need if you are playing Genshin or any other games? There's the new game out that's called Wuthering Waves. I have yet to play that one. I feel like that would just be an added obsession of mine. And I don't know if I could afford to have the whole 3 games for time-wise. I'm trying not to spend any money on the games. I mean, it's very hard to do, but... So as I was looking at this drawing, I felt like I needed windows on some of the buildings. So the buildings on the right, I do actually put some glass windows, which is pretty easy to do. I actually think either I warp it or I distort it, and then I do put it on the building below it as well. Do a little copy and paste action. Then I do end up making adjustments so it kind of blends in a little bit more since this was added in afterwards. Yeah, this is where I distort it. That is one wonderful thing about Procreate is all of this is like very friendly, easy to use, and it's all within reach. Yeah, I just noticed that a lot of the coloring, especially right now towards the end of it, it's kind of blown out to say the least. And also I could have rendered this more, but it was one of those things that you can only render something so much, and sometimes you just have to take a break and step away, or just go ahead and move on to the next piece. Because as I mentioned, with every piece, we all continue to learn more and more. I'm really excited for this upcoming story with Honkai Star Rail. I'm kind of, it's like I'm excited, but then I'm not excited because I don't want it to be the end of Firefly. There's plenty of rumors going around, and I just don't want it. I did do the gameplay up with her, and oh my gosh, the actions that she's able to do is amazing. Just to be able to utilize her in the battles. I think she is the path of... What was she? The path of destruction. So she's destruction. And like I said, hers is just amazing. I know I say that a lot. What I need to do this go around, I need to make sure to take some screenshot references of her just in case that one time comes that I don't get her, which I hope I do. Alright, so we're now at the end of this video, and I hope everybody, like I mentioned before, is doing well. Your wishes and your warps are going fabulous. And until next time, in the next potentially sketchbook video, or either just another iPad drawing session. But until then, bye-bye!